Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is Education USA Virtual. My name is Oksana, and I'm glad to introduce you our last webinar this month about sport. So, why choose the United States for your sports education? In this webinar of our March Sports series, Dan from Arizona State University, one of the most innovative universities in the country, will give you a comprehensive overview of sports programs that are available across the United States and the career pathways they lead to. If you have any last questions about sports degree in America, please write them in the chat and we'll be glad to answer them at the end of our webinar. Thank you, Dan, for joining us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Oksana. Hi, everyone. My name is Dan Gerbatch. As Oksana has already mentioned, really excited to be partnering with Education USA today and to have all of you here. And my presentation is going to be a little bit general. I will talk a lot of the basics about our specific university, but I will try to point out some pathways for you and some potential programs as well that are related to sports and kind of how that process works in the US, especially if you are potentially an athlete yourself, right? And you're actively playing sports or competing at the national level or perhaps even international. What are some of the ways for you to utilize your background to pursue that career in the United States? Okay, so get started here. This is again my name and my contact information. If you have questions after this presentation or you're watching it online, feel free to reach out to me at any point, and I'll be happy to get back to you. If it's something I don't know, I'll make sure to connect you to another colleague that is perhaps more of an expert in that particular domain. But I'm part of the admissions team at Arizona State University, and I travel to various markets, including some of the countries that you're all from, but also China and a few other Asian countries as well. So I've always loved working with international students. And again, it's my pleasure being here. So a little bit of a quick pitch about ASU. ASU is really a unique school in the United States because it is, first of all, the largest public university, right? And as a university, we're really defined by this charter statement that you're seeing on the screen right now. So ASU is measured by whom it includes, not by whom it excludes, right? And how our students succeed while they're at ASU and after they graduate. We also really are passionate about advancing research and discovery that is of public value, right? So we don't just make our students study in an ivory tower. We want to make sure that the results that they're producing, the research that they're producing, that it has a positive impact on our society. And finally, we assume responsibility for the communities that we serve. And so I think just having that as a background will give you a better understanding of who we are as an institution. All right, so first things first, I wanted to mention where we are on the map because US is a huge country, and many of you may not have necessarily visited us. So it can be quite confusing, right? Figuring out exactly where different institutions in the US are. So we are one of approximately 4,000 different colleges and universities that we have in the United States, right? So all of you have tremendous choices and opportunities in the US. We are one of those choices, and I will also try to share why we're probably one of your best choices potentially. But this is where we are. We are in the state of Arizona, which is in the southwestern part of the United States. It is the sixth largest state, right? So in terms of its area, in terms of the land mass, it is the sixth largest. So it's quite a big state, not as big as maybe Texas or a few other states, but quite large. And our campuses are primarily located in Phoenix, which is the largest city in Arizona. It's also the fifth largest city in the US, all right? So that's a little bit about the geographic location. So of course, being in the Southwest, you can probably guess that the climate is going to be on the warmer side. It is similar to probably Spain or Turkey, if you've been to either one of these countries and closer to home, right? So it is a very sunny, warm climate. It is also very dry, right? So it's not humid like for example, Southeast Asia. All right. Well, as I mentioned earlier, we are all about including as many students as we can and providing access to educational opportunities as well as career opportunities to our students. And that as well, you'll see we are actually the #1 public university chosen by international students in the United States. So what that means is that we have over 15,000 international students. All right. So that's just an incredible number. That is, in some cases, that is the size of the entire university. We actually have that number of students from all over the world, including Eastern Europe, including, of course, Africa and Middle East and Asia. So our students come from over 150 countries, and all of them feel welcome on our campuses. And I think you would feel the same if you had a chance to visit. I did want to mention that we have lots of different rankings for various programs. So if you're interested in looking some of those up, perhaps take a screenshot of this website and you'll be able to see different program rankings that we have at ASU. All right. So moving on a little bit to Phoenix, just to give you an idea. I had a video that I wanted to share, but unfortunately, I think it's going to be a little too challenging technologically to play the video live. But you can also find it on our YouTube channel as well if you'd like to see what the campus looks like and what the city looks like. Again, Phoenix is the 5th largest city, so that's about 4.6 million people. That means that there's a lot of things to do in the city, right? There's shopping, there's lots of sports, as is the focus of this presentation today. So we have actually all the major 4 sports, American sports. So we have the NBA, right? We have the NFL, the National Football League. We also have a baseball team, and we have a hockey team, right? So all of the major sports in the U.S. are represented in Phoenix. So already from the get-go, that gives you an idea of kind of the sports opportunities or opportunities adjacent to different sports industries in the city of Phoenix. But of course, there's a lot more than just sports. All right, so this is the video that I think we're going to skip today. Perhaps you can watch it on your own on YouTube. And the other thing I wanted to point out is that as a larger university, we actually have multiple campuses, right? So we don't believe that every type of student, has the same exact outlook or has the same exact needs. We think that each one of you deserves kind of a unique experience, and we want you to customize your experience, right? We want you to find a campus that fits you, and we want you to also find the academic path that is tailored to your interests, to your needs, to your passions, and your talents. So that is why we have multiple campuses. Now, most of these campuses are still in Phoenix, right? So 4 out of the 5 that you see on this slide are located in the Phoenix metropolitan area. We do have one center also recently opened in Los Angeles, California, right? So that campus currently does not offer any sports-related degrees, but it does offer film and fashion design and things like that. So perhaps for those of you that are not necessarily thinking about sports yet, or perhaps you'd like to design sports fashion, right? Sports garments and things like that, that could be another potential location. But I'm not going to go too much into the different campuses that we have. Again, if you have questions about that, I'd be happy to cover that in more detail. But I'm going to leave it there for the purpose of this presentation. Now, as a larger university, one of the bigger advantages that we have is the sheer number and the variety of programs and departments that we have, right? So ASU has over 400 different programs. This includes everything from bachelor's degrees, which are typically 4 years in the US, to master's degrees or even doctorate degrees, right? So if you wanted to come to ASU and get your bachelor's degree and then stay for your master's, and then potentially get a PhD, you could do it all in one university if you chose to do so. These are some of the kind of general categories of degrees that we offer. So obviously this is not a full extensive list by any means, but just to give you a general idea of what we do have, we we're a school that is very comprehensive. So everything, of course, in the sciences and humanities, to things like business, engineering, um, sports-related degrees, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, but also things like design and art and theater and dance. Right? There's really, I would challenge you to find something that we don't have at ASU. Let me put it that way. All right. So for all of you, if you're looking into pursuing a program related to sports, right? Whether it's a business related or whether it's working with athletes on their performance, whether it's training athletes, right? Or perhaps being a medical staff that works with injuries and things like that. So all of these programs do exist at ASU. They may be called different names, which don't always have sports in the actual title of the program. But the resource for looking up all of the degrees that we have is on our website. It's if you go to just asu.edu or the link that I have on this slide, that's where you'll be able to look up all the programs that we have, right? So I encourage you to do this as this presentation is going on, or if you're unable to do it right now, please take a moment later on after this presentation to look up some of the potential programs that could be of interest to you. So I tried to, I know this slide may be a little bit small to see, but I tried to list some of the programs that we do offer at ASU, specifically related to sports. So of course we have things like kinesiology, we have exercise and wellness. We also have programs that are more on the business side. So perhaps, working on the marketing for a sports team, right? Working with athletes on their personal brand, their marketing. There's really lots of different opportunities. So again, I would encourage you to actually go to our website and take a look at the things that we have that are related to sports in one way or another. We have multiple opportunities also, perhaps in some other areas which you haven't thought about, right? So it could be something in engineering that is related to sports, or perhaps working as a psychologist with athletes, right, on their performance. That would be the first degree you see on this slide, which is the counseling and applied psychological sciences, right? So just keep in mind, have an open mind in terms of the different opportunities that exist for you as a student who is interested in sports or as a student athlete, right, that wants to come to the US to compete and to perform at the highest level. All right. And for all of these degrees that you're seeing on the last two slides, which I put up here, if you go to our website and you click through to any one of these programs, you'll actually be able to see potential careers. You'll be able to see salary ranges, as well as a much more vivid description of that program and the curriculum that you would be following, right? So please also take advantage of this resource, because I think our website is actually probably one of the best designed websites that I've seen. Of course, I'm a little bit biased, but please do take a look. All right, so moving on to the athletics, right? So I talked a little bit about the different academic opportunities we have related to sports. Again, ASU being the largest public university, of course, we're going to have the most options, the most choices for you as a student academically. But also on the athletic side, we are the highest division of collegiate athletics in the US, which is called Division One, right? So there's also Division Two and Division Three, Division One being the most competitive, right? So how competitive is that, right? To give you an idea of the level of the student athletes that we get at ASU. So you may have heard some of these names, right? I'll just mention a couple. For example, Michael Phelps, the Olympian gold medalist, right, in swimming. He was an ASU student. James Harden, who went on to the Houston Rockets playing for the NBA. He was also an ASU student, right? Perhaps if you watched the Paris Olympics this summer, right, this past summer, you may have seen a couple of our students as well. We had two swimmers, one that won gold and one that I think won silver, right? So one student was actually a French student. So he was representing France, but he's a current student at ASU. And the other student was Canadian, also a current student at ASU. Right. So again, I think that just speaks to the opportunities that we have at ASU for not only American students, but also our international students that are amazing athletes. Okay. But again, on this slide, you see I'm sorry that my video keeps disappearing. I promise I'm not a ghost. But on this website, you'll see the athletics website that ASU hosts on our main website. So if you go to thesundevils.com, or if you just go to our main website and click on athletics, that is where you can see news about all our different teams, their different competitions, right? You'll also see all of the sports that we offer. So I often get questions about different sports, right? So a really popular question from Europe, for example, or other countries in Asia is, I'm a soccer player, I'm a football player, right? Can I join your team? Unfortunately, we only have a women's soccer team, right? We don't have a men's soccer team, soccer, football, right? Depending on what you call it. So just be aware that, even though we are a large university, does not necessarily mean that we have the sport that you're looking for. So take a look on our website to see what sports we do offer and whether or not there's a fit, right? So of course, the most common sports in the U.S. are going to be basketball. They're going to be American football. They're going to be track and field, cross country, swimming. But it really depends on the school as well, right? So it is regional in some sense. So you have to make sure that there's a fit. And just because we have a certain women's team does not necessarily mean we also have it on the men's side. Okay, so how does it actually work in the United States for you to become a recruited athlete? Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that by no means am I an expert on this. So, I don't know all of the ins and outs of this process, but I do have a general kind of 10,000 foot overview of how the process works. Right. So I think that the first thing to keep in mind is really that you have to start this process early. So it's usually something that takes at least a couple of years, right, before you are recruited to a university in America to play on one of their teams. So keep in mind that if you are currently an athlete in your country, you're on your school's team, you're on your national team, whatever the case may be, right? You're participating in competitions, you have really good results. That's great, but there's still a process in place, and you have to follow that process in the U.S. to make sure that you're on track and that you're not missing any kind of important deadlines. So the first step for a lot of international students is to register with NCAA. So NCAA is the accreditation organization in the U.S. that kind of oversees all of the collegiate sports in the U.S. So you have to go to their website and actually create an account as an athlete, right? A profile. That is kind of the first step, and you really want to do that as early as possible. I think they suggest that you can do it before your freshman year in high school, right? So just keep that in mind. The other steps that are required, of course, for you to be recruited is generally graduating from high school successfully. So you do have to actually complete your high school, even though you may be an amazing athlete, right? We still generally require you to have a graduation diploma. And you have to be, of course, admitted to a college that you want to go to be on their team, right? So you may be an incredible athlete, but if you want to join the Harvard cross-country team, you still have to be admitted to Harvard to be able to actually join their team, right? So I'm not an expert on the process, but I would encourage you to look up NCAA, and on their website, they have more information about the eligibility criteria for international students. So I encourage you to go to their website to take a deeper look. But also, I know that they host a lot of webinars like this one, where they really dig into the steps required and the various kind of scenarios and various types of athletes from different countries. What are the specific requirements? So I would definitely encourage you to sign up for that as well, and watch that. All right. So kind of moving on to how do you actually apply to a U.S. college, right? As that is one of the requirements of becoming an athlete in the U.S. And even if you don't want to be a recruited athlete, but you just want to study a program that is related to business, right? You still have to be admitted to a U.S. university. So I will use the example of our university in terms of how it works, but this is going to be similar at a lot of other schools in the U.S. as well. Um, just keep in mind that, of course, every university has slightly different requirements. So some of these scores or numbers may differ, but the general process is going to be very similar. And so this is what we require specifically at Arizona State University. As an international student, we accept you. We expect you to submit your transcripts to us, right? So we generally will ask your school for the transcript, or you could also mail your documents to us as well, and we will take your high school grades and we will convert them to the U.S. grading scale, right? So the U.S. grading scale is a 4.0 scale. On that scale, we generally require that you have about a 3.0, right? 3.0 is roughly 80% average grade, right, for all of your high school. So that is kind of the general requirement for ASU. Of course, other universities, right, they may have much higher requirements. So if you're applying to a more competitive school like the Ivy League universities, right, whether it's Brown or Princeton or MIT, likely you're looking at having nearly perfect grades, as well as many other factors that would make you competitive for that university. Again, at ASU, as I mentioned in the very beginning of my presentation, we are all about providing access to education, and so we want to include as many students on our campuses as we can. And we really believe that students, don't necessarily have to have perfect grades in order to be able to contribute to society and to be successful, right? So that is why our requirements are a little bit different. In terms of the actual process, so I already mentioned that you would be sending your high school grades or transcripts to us in the US. This can be done electronically. It can be also done via physical mail. But the other piece, of course, is going to be the actual application itself. Now, at ASU, we use Common App, which is a third-party system. For pretty much all American universities, you can use Common App. So you can fill out your information all in one portal, just fill it out once, and then you can send it to multiple universities in the US, right? So it's really convenient. If you are applying to the US, I would probably recommend you also use this system. If you're only applying to ASU, right, we do have our own application as well. So either one of those options works for us. As I already mentioned, you would send your transcript. There is usually a application fee that you have to pay. And then the other piece for us, I think it's on this page here that I didn't talk about, is also your English, right? So of course, coming to the US, we expect all of you to be able to not only speak English, but to be able to use English in an academic setting, right? So this would be writing in English, it would be reading in English, it would be having discussions with your classmates and professors, presenting in English. All of these skills are really important, and that is why we require some kind of an English proficiency test. For us, we accept pretty much all of them, including TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo. And I would say that our requirements are very reasonable, right? Again, that's something that most universities in the US will require from international students, but the specific numbers will differ quite a lot. All right, so once you've sent all these documents, hopefully, if everything goes well, right, you will receive an email that says, "Congratulations, you've been admitted to Arizona State University," or whatever university you're applying to. Um, Once you have that, right, a lot of universities will also consider you for a scholarship. So there's different types of scholarships in the U.S., but generally scholarships refer to money that you receive that is based on your usually your academics, right? So if you got really good grades, you you studied hard in school, you have perfect grades or really high grades. Um, Perhaps also you took the TOEFL or you took the IELTS and you got a really nice score, right? In combination, those numbers will determine the amount of scholarship that you will receive. So again, this depends on the school in terms of how exactly it works. For us at ASU, we look at your GPA, your grades, as well as your English proficiency. And so these two things will combine to determine the amount of money that we will award you. Um, a lot of students will ask about financial aid as well, right? So in the U.S., we kind of distinguish between these two things. So you have scholarships, which are based on your grades or other talents and accomplishments, whereas financial aid is generally based on your financial situation, right? So it is based on the income level of your parents and things like that. Okay, so think of financial aid as more kind of help, whereas scholarships are more like an award, a recognition of your excellence. Okay, so at ASU, we have this scholarship that all of our international students are considered for automatically. So all you have to do is to apply to ASU, uh, take all the steps that I mentioned earlier in terms of sending your transcripts, your English proficiency scores, right, filling out the application. Once we have all of that and you've been admitted, we will then consider you for this scholarship automatically, right? And there's additional opportunities available to students from abroad. So I encourage you again to take a look on our website. You may be able to find additional scholarships that you can apply for as well. For athletes, I don't have a slide on here, but of course, if you've been recruited to one of our teams as a student athlete, right, whether this is a swimmer or I don't know, a basketball player, or somebody else, right? Generally, as a recruited student athlete at ASU, you would be getting all of your tuition paid by the university, right? So it's essentially a full scholarship. All right, just quickly mentioning again that as a student in the US, I think part of the experience is really living on campus and being part of that social life, being surrounded by all the different students that we have, all of our American students as well as our international students. It's a really cool experience that is, I think, the biggest value that you get out of college is the network that you build there, right? The network of friends, colleagues, and many others, right, that you'll meet along the way. So at ASU, we ask our students to stay on campus the first year, and all of our dormitories, all of our housing, it's uh, based on the major that you're studying, right? So if you are for example, a kinesiology major, right, or sports performance major, all of your hallmates, all of your neighbors would be from the same college, from the same department. So it just gives you an additional kind of network to fall back on. And at ASU, in addition to all the wonderful sports that we have over 800 different student organizations, right? So there's just so much to do as a student that really it's often challenging for students to find enough time to do all the things that they want to do. Um, so you're kind of juggling your academics as well as your social life, and then hopefully also getting some sleep in the process as well. And so I'll stop there in terms of ASU. Again, This is the contact information that you can scan using your phone. We encourage you to get in touch with us if you have more specific questions about the recruitment process as an athlete or just applying to our programs in general, or anything else that I didn't cover in this presentation. Please feel free to contact me and my team. We also have a page on Instagram for our athletics, so please feel free to follow that. Um, yeah, so thank you all for this time. I appreciate meeting with all of you virtually, and I hope we'll have some questions, comments, and if not, thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dan, so much for covering so many information in this presentation, because it's really important for many students, and especially for providing this information about scholarship and students' life in ASU in Arizona. Could you please maybe briefly mention some information about career pathways of the students athletes after they graduate Arizona State University? Like, what are options, what they can do after? Do you have like any maybe programs or offices like who could help the students with future career, resume, and so on?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Oksana. Yeah, I don't think I have a slide on this in this particular slide deck about our career services. But of course, all of our students are eligible for the career services that ASU provides. So just for the students' benefit, right? A career services office is an actual unit on campus where you can go as a student, and they have all sorts of different events for students, right, that are related to finding an internship or actually planning your career, right? It could be meeting employers, it could be meeting with company representatives from their HR. It could also be in the form of job fairs, right, where you as a student go and participate, meet with company representatives, have your resume ready, and apply for jobs right there. So that is kind of the standard format that usually the career services office offers. But they have much more than that, really, and of course, you will depend a little bit based on your college and your major. But I would say for student athletes specifically, of course, that is often tied to their performance on the sports team that they're part of, right? So they'll have a whole kind of host of different opportunities related to sports. So if they're playing on our team, right, they may have opportunities to compete nationally, internationally, right? Like some of our current students that I mentioned were in the Paris Olympics, right? So obviously that kind of opportunity uh, is also very very rare, but is also tremendously impactful on their careers as athletes. Just having that on their resume. Um, so it really depends on the path you want to take. If you're an athlete, that's kind of its own realm. But in terms of the academics at ASU, of course, all of our programs, whether it's business or engineering or something sports related, all of them have dedicated career advisors that meet with the students, help them plan their kind of career, and also encourage them to take advantage of all the events on campus and all the programming that happens to prepare students to be ready, right, when those opportunities come along.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing. Maybe the last question to sum up this wonderful presentation and meeting with you. Could you please give some pieces of advice to our international students who will watch this recording or who are watching us online? Because like next academic year is coming, and I think that many students will start their preparation. So any recommendations for them?
Yes, I would say that my first recommendation would be to not be discouraged, right, by all of the different negative things you may be hearing on the news. I know that there's been a lot of things happening in the U.S., but also around the world that maybe hasn't hasn't improved our reputation abroad in a positive light, right? So I would say that despite all the things that you may hear on the news and that you're seeing elsewhere, that we still very much value our international students, and we want international students to come to the U.S. Um, and I know I speak, for our university, that we want you there, and you know we'll do our best to make sure that you have a wonderful experience in the U.S. On our campuses, and that you're able to achieve the goals that you have for yourself. Right, that is really our only job, and that is a job we take very seriously. And we know that having international students on our campus is just such a beneficial um, thing for not only the university itself and the student community, but for the wider community of Phoenix, as well as the U.S. in general. Right, so we very much welcome you. We will take good care of you, and we still hope that you will consider the U.S. and consider ASU specifically. Other than that, I would say in terms of your application process, make sure that you get started as early as you can, because there's a lot of documents to navigate. There's also the visa process, right, which can be a little bit complicated, and policies may change. So it's always better to have everything ready early rather than doing it at the last moment. So if you're considering coming to the United States, let's say in the fall, right, now is really kind of getting very late. For us at ASU, we're still accepting applications for many of our bachelor's programs, but really the time is running out. But if you're applying for spring, which would be January of 2027, right, you would have a little bit more time. But regardless of when you want to start, just make sure that you really get ready and begin the process about a year in advance if possible. Uh, yeah.
Thank you so much, Dan. For our students, I would like to remind that Education USA advisors are always here to help you with your application process. And if you need any help at any stage, so please reach out to us, and we'll be happy to help you with your application. Thank you, Dan, for joining us today, and thanks everyone who watched this webinar or who will watch it, the recording of the webinar. Hope we will see you during our next webinars. And for our students, please register for our upcoming events in April, because we already have some interesting sessions for you in the upcoming months. Thanks, everyone, and see you.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Oksana. Yes, please take advantage of Education USA as well, because they're an amazing resource, completely free to you. And they are the experts in their regions, right, in terms of how visas work and all of the latest news.
Yeah, thank you so much. See you.